going to go ahead and get started today. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to, during this committee meeting, talk about the director's evaluation. I'm going to kick it off to, or pass it on to Erin O'Hara Block to talk to us more about the director's evaluation, the process that we went through, and the feedback that we have related to the director's evaluation. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Bob-McKinney. So if we could pull up the slide deck that goes along with this, what we're going to do is go through some of the detail that Dr. Battle included in her self-evaluation, and then feedback from the board on that self-evaluation. So this is what we're calling a semi-annual report on the director evaluation. So throughout.
We gotta get it.
Yep.
I sent it at 4:21.
February 28th? On February 28th?
39 seconds.
Since we're recording.
Is that going to be the most recent one?
421. My girl. Ask me again.
We'll go ahead and wait just a second.
We're going to hold. We're holding. Exactly. It's going to come for me again. Right.
There we go. Great. Thank you. Thank you to Cameo and Jamal. Okay, so where are we? Dr. Battle has completed quarterly self-reports, so formative progress reports, the self-evaluation. The board reviewed quarter 1 and quarter 2 in order to provide feedback to Dr. Battle on her self-evaluation and self-reports, and that's what we're going to cover today. Next slide. And so this just says the exact same thing as the previous slide, but in visual format. So just to say that where we are right now is on this second box, which is the semi-annual board feedback. Okay, and so we have changed the format of the evaluation just a little bit. So in last year's evaluation for Dr. Battle in the past couple of years, the focus has been on the 14 sort of signature initiatives. And given sort of some changes in the signature initiatives and a desire to focus really intently on our focused outcomes, what we're giving feedback on now, so both what Dr. Battle did self-reflection on and what we have given feedback on is the 4 focused outcomes. So literacy, numeracy, social emotional learning, and transitions. And so we're going to run through each one of those in order. And basically, I'm going to run through this summary, and then we'll offer just an opportunity for some questions. But more or less, since we've all seen this and have had a chance to give feedback, this is going to be more of a report than anything else. So on the focused outcome of literacy, I'm not necessarily going to read all of these. I think folks can take a look through the slides as well. But in I think maybe even just in our last board meeting, we talked about the benchmark and screener reports from first and second quarter of school. So with 58.9% of students meeting or exceeding their A reading percentile. So we had growth in both A reading and on benchmark assessments in the fall, from quarter 1 when students first took those tests until the second time that they took those. So that was something that Dr. Battle highlighted and board members commented on frequently in their evaluations as being something we felt very positively about. Lots of things around curriculum implementation. So this has been a core of the literacy work. And I think we were, generally speaking, encouraged by the work that's been done in training educators and focusing on changes to foundational skills where needed in responding to educator feedback and doing lots of different sort of support sessions. So on the next slide. Also noted both in Dr. Battle's self-evaluation and then from board member perspective, having seen this occur, Dr. Battle herself and district leaders with lots of visits to classrooms, executive directors, as we talked about, I think Dr. Bellamy presented in our last board meeting about the number of times and the kinds of supports that executive directors are doing, EE and EL coaches we've heard about as well in board in reports to the board. And so I think this was actually an area that board members frequently commented on, feeling like this was something that we felt really strongly about, making sure that Dr. Battle and team are actually in schools seeing what's happening. We're all encouraged by the work of Accelerating Scholars, the number of students we have there. And then I know I've personally have mentioned a number of times the personalized student dashboards, which I'm a huge fan of. And then one thing that was also highlighted by the board was the planning, communication, and support around the third grade retention. So that was not, that was something that board members added that we all felt like was something that was being done, as well as can possibly happen in a situation where we don't know as much as we'd like to know from sort of the department and the legislature, and where we'd like to see changes, but the district has been doing a great job going ahead and communicating with what information we have. So then what are some of the things that board members identified as opportunities in the focused outcome on literacy? So one, continuing to focus on the number of students and tutors engaged in Accelerating Scholars. So to the extent that we can continue to expand that program, and frankly we'll have to, that seems like an important thing to continue to stay focused on. Board members noted in a couple of different grades that maybe didn't have the same level of progress on benchmarks and a reading, wanting to see continued focus on those grades. A couple of mentions of additional time in early grades, Wit and Wisdom doing a good job, but in addition, wanting to see time for small group and individual instruction, and I know is something board members have heard from constituents and educators. And then lastly, and we'll repeat this in the numeracy category, but ensuring an increased focus on implementing and reporting on the progress towards the equity roadmap and the related policy, which is something that has been discussed on the board floor a couple of times already. So finally, and we'll run through the same set of things for each of the focused outcomes. So director highlights, additional highlights from the board if there were any that were separate from what had already been highlighted, opportunities, and then board requests for additional information. So one thing board members identified was to learn more about specific strategies to address achievement gaps in literacy. Looking to understand more about the progress for Accelerating Scholars participants on a reading and on benchmarks. So how are we seeing progress for Accelerating Scholars participants? And then finally, a couple specific mentions of disaggregated grade and student group data on high school progress. So those are things that I think we'd like to have some additional conversation about at the board level. So same thing, but now we're turning to the second focused outcome, and this is numeracy. So similar to literacy, we did see, so in this case, 56.2% of students meet or exceeding percentile, their previous percentile when they tested between the first and second test in the fall to winter. I think we're encouraged about the adoption of the movement on the high quality math adoption, and knowing that there are lots of supports, as was highlighted in the literacy focused outcome. There are lots of supports in place already for curriculum implementation, and that seems that I think everyone is encouraged by that. And I mentioned the other items previously, so I won't mention them again. But similarly, on literacy, these strategies around visits, Accelerating Scholars, and personalized student dashboards feel like good things that are happening in the numeracy category. So what are some opportunities that the board identified on numeracy? So as I said, lots of great supports in place from the literacy adoption, but certainly also any opportunities to learn from challenges that occurred during the literacy adoption and build on that for numeracy would be something folks would like to see and talk about. We talked sort of same things here on making progress across all grades, expansion in Accelerating Scholars, the equity roadmap and policy, which was mentioned in literacy as well. And then lastly, just as educators get ready to address multiple curriculum adoptions and changes at once, just making sure that we're giving good, that we're using all of the structures we have in place that have been discussed previously to ensure that educators know how to deal with multiple changes and adoptions at the same time. So moving forward, the last thing here, just on numeracy, what are things that board members would continue to like to see more information on? We talked about with literacy as well, achievement gap data and strategies to address achievement gaps. And so the first and second of these bullets are really interrelated. Again, disaggregated data on high school student progress. And then as we go forward into implementation of the new math curriculum, understanding some specifics about the results and impacts of the walkthroughs that district staff are doing. And we do hear about those things sometimes, but continuing to hear about that as we go through numeracy or math curriculum adoption. So next focus outcome, social emotional learning. And a couple of things that have been highlighted. So 75% of students were assigned a navigator at the end of the second quarter of this school year. A lot of work and a lot of complimentary feeling from the board on the work of the advocacy and peace centers. Many of us have seen those in action, and several folks who mentioned that. Supports, as you can see, so many supports happening in advocacy and peace centers for students. Also, the staff that are running advocacy and peace centers are doing trainings within schools for other educators, other staff. They're also pulling students in to get those type of tier 1 supports. They're going into classrooms as needed. And as such, the district has seen reductions in both out of school suspension and other behavior incidents, and this feels like a real accomplishment. In addition, students have been participating in self-assessments and surveys through Sown to Grow, a remarkable number of those. And through those, the district has noted demonstrated increases in students' ability to understand and articulate what core competencies look like in SEL. Community support hubs have been working with families. I think a strong focus on attendance, though also a note from board members that we do need to continue to focus on attendance. Attendance continues to be an issue, but the district was close and in some cases actually had met some of the chronic absence and daily attendance goals by the end of quarter 2, which is fantastic. And then a couple of mentions of appreciating the support to reduce counselor to student and counselor to psychologist ratios. As the board talked about what opportunities do we have here, so certainly continuing to have lower ratios as much as we possibly can for students related to the adults in their buildings that are helping them from a mental health and SEL perspective is something we would like to continue to support and like to ensure that the district continues and Dr. Battle continue to focus on. Same with the community supports that we see, and then a couple of requests to see the panorama data incorporated also into the evaluation of these SEL strategies. And there's a similar comment in the next slide. So I'll go to that. Last bullet is trying to understand more about teacher and student experience. So we can't get that data with navigators in particular, but probably also with SEL generally. That's not data that we necessarily see through something like Panorama, but it might be the kind of thing that board members would like to understand a little bit more about. Literally, what does it look like for a student in a school to get these kinds of supports? More specific information on the root causes of attendance issues, and then what strategies are in place to address disproportionality and discipline. And so just want to recognize that actually on each of these things, as we talk about them, we have had presentations from Dr. Battle and team to the board on literacy strategies, on numeracy strategies, on what we're doing from a social emotional learning and attendance perspective. So I think not that we are necessarily saying we don't know, but we want to continue to engage on these things, continue to get deeper in understanding what we're doing to address all of the issues that we've talked about. And so finally, the last focus outcome here is transitions, and then I'm sure everyone will like to hear me stop talking. But some evaluation highlights. So EE teachers have been trained on transition-focused IEPs, which is incredibly important. Navigators have begun entering transition plans into Sown to Grow. And there have been transition trainings happening from leads at schools. And then this is one mention of an opportunity through University U and sort of the MNPS college, high school to college pipeline, but there's lots of other opportunities I think folks would want to recognize here. And then additional things that were mentioned by the board in what I think we think of as the transition category as well, work-based learning opportunities for high school students, which we all enjoyed talking about several weeks ago, and feeling very positively about the MNPS Reimagine transitions for 5th grade. So opportunities identified by board members. One, just I think knowing and understanding and increasing supports for students that enter at any time. So students enter MNPS pre-K, K, 1st grade, 5th grade, at all different types of times. The mention of EE teachers in middle school and high school being trained on IEP transitions, I think sparked an idea that maybe is already happening in some ways around exceptional education elementary teachers and GATE teachers as well. And then while the reimagined transitions, I think everyone feels like are going really well, continuing to make sure that we're supporting schools in whatever they need on that transition, especially knowing and understanding projections and what that means for both students and teachers. And then I think an additional request here, similar to the idea around navigators and ACL supports, is just a better understanding for board members of how students are experiencing transition supports and what can be done to improve them. And so that is the summary of the self-evaluation, board feedback, and additional things that board members would like to hear about. The next time we will do this same thing, so Dr. Battle will continue to do these formative progress reports, self-evaluations in Q3 and Q4. In July, the board will come back and we'll have this same kind of report back on board feedback to Dr. Battle on her self-evaluation, and then we'll complete a summative evaluation in August, knowing that at that time we will also have hopefully more information about student outcomes for the year. So with that, any questions, comments, discussion on primarily process, but anything else anyone wants to?
Free to player.
If you saw me giggling, because I just had the revelation of January, February was not second quarter, that's first quarter. I'm thinking, oh, the first quarter started in November. So that was the brain thing I had at the last minute.
Yeah, and we're sort of talking about this in school quarters.
Yeah, well, we can make up our own calendar, so.
Also true.
That's what I just realized. So that was that's the brain revelation you saw me having. I just wanted to thank you, and I really thank Dr. Gentry for starting this process last year, and then for Aaron and for Berthina to really build on it. And this is why I say in public all the time, is that we have a great school board with great diverse talents and skills, and this is proof positive of it. As we've in the past have struggled on what is a good measurement to evaluate our director of schools, and just in this first year, particularly you guys being in your first year of being elected office as school board members, to make this process more seamless and more fluid and easy to engage in and comprehend. And I just really want to acknowledge that, and just the talent that we have on this board to really involve this process with a great foundation that Dr. Gentry started, and to build on it. That I think we need to highlight that and let the public know this is what happens when you have good people with good talent and skills, that we can make this accessible to the layperson. And when it comes to how we evaluate director of schools, which is our main goal, but then also how are we doing it and what it looks like and the things that we're doing. So I just want to uplift that, just because this has been a process of how do you make this accessible and effective at the same time, and that's something that is really based on hard, tangible evidence, but also a course of improving to make our district better.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Gentry.
Just want to thank everybody for completing the evaluation.
Yes, We did have 100% participation
100%.
in 100% of the evaluation process.
The
from board
same
members.
tool that we used last time. That was amazing, y'all. I appreciate you. But I do want to just, again, pull the thread on Ms. Player's comment. That just even, for the public to start to think through what it should mean to sit at this table. When people campaign because they're mad about something, or people campaign because of all the 9,752 things they're going to change when they get here, it's not what we do. It's not what we even have the capacity to do. We do have the capacity, and we are charged to sit at this table and engage in thoughtful dialogue, to be aware and interested and engaged in what's going on, to read the materials that are placed before us, to have those of us who and I thank all of you who are able to go and sit at that legislature, take your Pepto-Bismol and listen to all of that discussion about public education or not about public education, and keep us all informed and bring that lens to the discussion. It is about finding someone who can sit at this table and engage with each of their colleagues in meaningful dialogue, and understand that our charge is to support a director in constant improvement, in continuous improvement in operations and in outcomes for our students and our families. So I know I beat the horse when you all first sat at this table, and I will continue to say thank you to each of you for being here and engaging in the way that you do.
Thank you.
I'll wait
Anyone
till
else?
I'm 1,000 years old to do it, but welcome anyway.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to add a thanks to, well, first of all, thanks to Dr. Gentry for getting this all set up, but I want to add a thanks to Dr. Battle and staff, and in particular the IT staff that also developed this app that is very easy to use and allows for us to give good feedback and go back in and make changes, et cetera. But Berthina and I came in with an idea of, hey, we want to be focused on outcomes for students and educators and for our district, and had that conversation with Dr. Battle, and we landed on the idea of reporting back to the board and the community on the 4 focused outcomes, because that was Dr. Battle's idea of how to then structure this. And so I want to say thank you to Dr. Battle for being open to our push and suggestions to get to this place.
Ms. Elrod?
Thank you. My final comments would be that I will work with Dr. Sevier and reach out to you and Aaron about the meeting that we need to schedule for July to go over the next results in this public-facing way. And then we'll have some additional conversations about planning our self-evaluations that we have as requirement through state law. Thank you all for organizing it. As Dr. Gentry mentioned, making sure that we have 100% participation is typically quite difficult, and I was really proud that y'all all did it. We did it well and with thoughtfulness, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. In closing, thank you so much, Ms. O'Hara Block, for leading the discussion today. Thank you all for your feedback and comments. I will say this is my first evaluation experience, but the thoughtful effort that everyone put into the evaluations and the feedback that we received was very, very intentional and very fruitful. And so hopefully we can continue to have those thoughtful conversations around how we can continue to move in an upward mobility and support Dr. Battle in this work and get this work done for our children and across our district. So thank you, Dr. Battle. Thank you to your team. Thank you, IT, you're the bomb.com, for your timely response. And thank you, everyone who is involved across our district to do what's best in providing a quality education for our students within Metro Nashville Public Schools. If there is no other comments, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.